This is the 74th episode of the Mind Your Noodles podcast. And for Labor Day, I am making an announcement with regards to this podcast. I've contemplated either ending it or pivoting on it or renaming it. But I'm going to continue the podcast, but I am going to pivot on what I've been doing. We've doubled our audience since we began, or more than doubled it actually. And what I'm going to be pivoting to is not a change of name. I'm going to still keep the name Mind Your Noodles because I think it's appropriate for even what I'm looking at doing. And so there's going to be still neuroscience involved in it. I've learned a lot by some of the interviews that I've done and some of the things that I've researched, and it's really helped in engagements with organizations. But I want to also get into the methods for changing thinking, engaging employees, lack of a better term, wowing customers. So it's still going to be, because I do still believe that the biggest leverage point that you have in your organization is how you think. And that's a lot of what's in the executive education program. And as I was contemplating all this over the last few weeks, I went back and I read Peter Drucker's The Effective Executive. And there are things in there. He wrote that in like 1966. And it's an excellent book, but it's from 1966. You'd like to think we've advanced a little bit since then, although we might want to argue that with some of the thinking that executives have. But Peter Drucker's book, The Effective Executive, rang with me quite a bit. And as I started to look at what makes an effective executive, I started to realize even some of the things that Peter Drucker wrote about, or Dr. Drucker wrote about, really weren't necessarily talking about being more effective. It was about being more efficient. And I think this is still a huge problem today. And I got my operational definitions from Russell Ackoff in the difference between being efficient and being effective. And that is going to be a lot of the focus of what's the difference between those two. And one of those things that we talked about that I also got from, for the most part, from Russell Ackoff was the analytical thinking versus the synthetic thinking. And so I want to continue down that path. And so we're still, my belief is a huge leverage point is how do we change thinking in an organization? And I'm building a starter kit for the executive education program that I have. Obviously, this goes back to my tie-in to the method that I have, which is the 95 method. 95% of the performance of your organization is the system you've built, and 5% is attributable to the individual or special events or causes in an organization. And you may disagree with that, and that's fine. But that's what the whole training is about, is trying to get you to look at your organization as a system. It completes an entire thought in my mind. It's the analytical piece is only half of your thinking, and yet we spend so much time on analytical and so little time on synthetic, and I see this as a huge opportunity. So I'm going to continue down that particular path, and what you'll see happening over time is with what I built so far, we go look through in the executive education program, we have you looking through a customer lens and a thinking lens. And I think that those two are great ways to look at systems and understand them very well, and then going about a process of reconciling those two, the customer and the thinking lenses. And now the next piece that you'll see begin to show up in the executive education program is the construction of the aim. So a lot of the podcast will follow this type of thinking, and we'll be adding in accordance with that. So there'll be things that I've talked about before. We're going to talk a little bit more about decision making. We're going to talk about innovation. We're going to talk about executive data analytics, and we're also going to talk about customer and organizational design. And as time goes by, I'm offering the executive education program for $297. And there are about 30 videos out there presently, but that's only going to grow because as I add these components on, this will more than double. There may be 100 videos when we get done with the executive education program. And once they're all complete, the price is probably going to be somewhere around $1,500 or up for the training. So $297 now is kind of an investment for the things that we'll be building in to that executive education program. But you'll be able to follow along a little bit in the Mind Your Noodles podcast. A lot of the content will come from that. The training or the executive education program is something where somebody wants to go deeper. And you may not want to, and that's okay. That's why I'm going to build this free effective executive starter kit to put in that I'm working on now. I should be able to release this. Hopefully, I'd like to get it done by the end of this week and have it out there so it's available to my audience and people that are interested in this type of thing. And once we get that, you'll always have something free with me. You'll always have something that you go out there. It's just a matter of how much more you want to learn. So there, even with the lifetime access, with the price of $297, that's something that, for $290, you're paying one price and that's it. You're going to get all the rest of the stuff. Now, beyond that, you're going to get to a certain depth. If you want to even go deeper, this is where I start to get into my partners that go deeper, let's say into innovation, deeper into executive data analytics, deeper into customer and organizational design. All those things will have even deeper components, and you just it's a matter of how far you want to go, or is it enough for you to take the free stuff and go with it? That's fine too. I'm not stressed about that. I think people will find benefit in what I've put together, and it's far beyond anything I've ever seen. Not just because I'm involved in it, is I see a lot of education programs that are incomplete, or if you go to university, you're going to get basically theory and case studies that really have nothing to do with your business, and you may be able to connect the dots somehow or play with things, but with this program, with this executive education program, and even with the help of this podcast, you're going to be able to look at your own organization, make the changes, and apply theory in your organization without blowing the whole thing up. And that's where I really want to go. Now, one last comment I have with regards to the change in this podcast. Again, I won't be changing the name. You'll see some changes on the website, like with the title and the subtitle of it. We still have the neuroscience stuff in it. I'm still contemplating whether I'm going to call up to the 74th episode today as season 1 and going to season 2, or just kind of continuing it and making this the pivot point for broadening the focus of the podcast with the things that I've talked about. But it's all still, Mind Your Noodles is appropriate because we are still changing thinking and giving you a way to change thinking and engaging employees and wowing customers and all that stuff. So all that really stays the same. So that's all I wanted to do this week. Today's Labor Day, so I don't want to take up too much more time of yours or of mine, because this is a holiday and you should be enjoying it, at least here in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., you're probably just having another day. But I wanted to announce this change they're making with the podcast. It's not a huge change, but it does allow me it gives me a bigger tent to put this stuff under. And more of the things I'm going to be talking about are how you can become an effective executive, or how you, as an existing executive, you can get fresh ideas. If you're a new executive, how can you understand the system that you're in, and how big a difference synthetic thinking? And as I've also mentioned before, this is not about leadership to me. And most of the neuroscience stuff I'm seeing right now is about leadership. I'm not in that space. That's not the space that I'm in. Thousands of people are doing podcasts, literally, or blogs on leadership. And what about the personality types? That's, to me, you know, I'm not saying it's bad stuff by any stretch. It's good stuff. It's just not the space that I'm in. I'm going to teach you method. I'm going to teach you how to do things to make your organization better. I'm not going to do it in a classroom. I'm going to do it so that you can take this information and apply it to your organization. That's my message this week. Thank you.